So just a heads up, while we normally bleep out any bad words on Lead Balloon, this one's going to be a little bit spicier than usual. If you've got little kids around or squeamish coworkers, now would be a good time to pop in the earbuds or pause it to come back later. Because we have an update to one of the more interesting and definitely the most vulgar story that we've ever covered on this show. It was 4 years ago that the world of social media marketing was rocked to its core, and yeah, social media marketing is a world of hyperbole, and it is almost always being rocked to its core by something crazy that somebody or other did, but this one was an all-timer, making major media headlines and even featuring in late show host Stephen Colbert's opening monologue.
A lot of people are using the New Year's as an opportunity to take a break from alcohol, aka dry January. Over on Twitter, one adult beverage company had a bit of advice. Pabst Blue Ribbon posted this actual tweet. Not drinking this January? Try eating ass.
The Pabst marketing employee responsible for the tweet, Cory Smale, was promptly fired after the shitstorm the ass-eating tweet kicked up. But as we discussed when we covered it on episode 30 of this podcast, I would posit that it is an act of cowardice to fire the guy who's got his fingers on the tweeter. He had been running the brand's social media for 2 years at that point, and the try eating ass tweet was actually pretty on brand with the edgy, slightly deranged, but 100% authentic brand voice that he had developed, and the cult following that was celebrating it. At the time, we invited Cory to join us on the show, but with a cratered career to rebuild, he declined. Very tactfully, I would add. I think that the way that he handled himself in the wake of this whole thing was actually pretty savvy. Because here we are 4 years later, and Cory Smale is now the chief creative officer at Garage Beer, the quickly growing brand owned in part by internet darlings Jason and Travis Kelce, and he's now been named Ad Age's Marketer of the Year.
And I was okay to be fired, you know. I look back at it. It's the best thing that's ever happened to my career. I mean, I got a new house, I got a new truck. Life's good, babe. I don't know. What do you want me to say?
In this episode, the 4-year redemption ordeal that took Cory Smale from social media scapegoat to creative force behind one of the fastest growing beverage brands in the world. I'm Dusty Weiss from PodCamp Media. This is Lead Balloon, a podcast about epic tales from the worlds of PR, marketing, and branding, told by the well-meaning communications professionals who lived them. Thank you for tuning in. We're joined today by Cory Smale, Chief Creative Officer of Garage Beer and Ad Age's Marketer of the Year. Cory, thanks for making time, man.
Dusty, it is my pleasure to join you. This is a long time coming.
4 years I have been waiting for this interview, dude.
Here I am. I'm happy to
pumped.
be here.
I want to start by saying that this is going to be a mostly forward-looking interview, right? You're doing incredible work at Garage Beer. The work that you have done has helped make it one of the fastest-growing beverage brands in the world. But every great comeback story starts with a moment of darkness and hopelessness. At least that's what I learned in script writing class back in the day. You had described your job at Pabst Blue Ribbon as a dream job at the time. You were doing work that you described as wild and free. Put me back in your head on the day that you found out that you were going to be losing that job at PBR. What were you feeling?
Honestly, just like an uncertainty. I mean, I just didn't really know, you know. I was like a little torn on things because I just kind of like did that early one morning when I was in bed. I did the tweet, you know, and then it just sort of like caught fire and I just kind of stuck with it. And then it was told to me that like this is a problem, and I was like, oh no. And so I wasn't sure. I mean, I was okay to be fired, you know. I look back at it now, like 3 years before that, like I had a Chinese restaurant and it went bankrupt and like I owed $700,000 to a bank. So it's like,
so it's not so bad compared to that. It's not so bad.
I mean, kind of, yeah. I mean, not to say it's like, oh, we're good. You know, it wasn't great, but also like everything is relative, you know, and I knew that I wasn't being mean. I was being crazy, but crazy is subjective. So just a little bit of confusion, I guess. That's a long ass answer, but I would say just everything felt sort of up in the air. Like all the work we had done on the ground level, all of a sudden was just like, And it was like, oh, who knows what's going to happen in this space, you know?
I thought that you took a really, really good approach to rebuilding yourself from that point. In spite of my best efforts, I've never been fired outside of like a job at a Pizza Hut that I got fired from when I was like 16 years old, and then like batted my big blue eyes and talked my way back into that job. I can't imagine I would handle it anywhere near as well as you handled it. You've said that certainly that previous moment from your career had prepared you to land on your feet a little bit, but is that kind of resilience something that is inherent to you, or is that something that you learned from getting kicked in the face over and over again?
I knew that it was big, and I knew that the moves that I would make immediately needed to be smart. And I needed to be gracious. You know, I had some opportunities to do crazier things for quick money that would be more disparaging to like Pabst, but I didn't want to do that because like my best friend still worked there, and the owner of Pabst, Eugene Casper, was like, he was a good dude to me, and he took care of me, you know, like you know, man to man on that after I got fired, and that was like, that meant a lot. So I was just very like, okay, this didn't work, but there's really no bad blood. This CEO, I mean, whatever. I don't even work there anymore. So, but he had to do what he had to do. So I understand the circumstances were just awkward. But like I said, I understood that on a human to human level. I understood that I had done a lot of work over the last 2 or 3 years with like some really good friends. We had done some really remarkable things, and I didn't want to just like blow it all up.
I'm not an actuary. Neither of us is interested in relitigating and portioning out blame for what happened at PBR. I mean, we did like a 45-minute episode about this 4 years ago in episode 30 of the podcast. And my professional opinion, we landed on the assessment that, yeah, you probably wish you could have that one back, but also it wasn't fair for PBR to hang you out to dry like they did when they knew full well what your Twitter strategy was. But yeah, we're not going there right now. That's my opinion. Yet you went public and accepted 100% of the blame. You never spoke poorly of PBR in the 4 years since then. And I think that you charted an admirable course between standing behind the integrity of your own work, which was wild, which was creative, which was free, which was effective for the brand, but still being accountable for the fallout from what happened. What do you think other people can learn from the way that you handled yourself in a hard situation there?
I think you really just have to understand the guardrails in which you're working with. And I think that there weren't any at Pabst. And that's why things were awesome, but then that's also why it all fell apart. Like the same behavior of calling the customers rats is pretty much on par with suggesting eating ass. You know, I'm like, that's not those, you know, right. I would say calling someone a rat it's worse in my opinion.
It's in the same lane, man.
But so we were just on this road and there weren't boundaries. And I want to say one thing. The other night I was out with Andy Sauer. He's the CEO of Garage Beer. And we become so close. And he was like, Cory, you're driving on Rainbow Road, you know? And if you think about it, in N64, there's still Rainbow Road, but there's still guardrails on Rainbow Road, you know? And I think that we just didn't have any rails, you know? And I think that that's like, my suggestion would be, if your job is to do that, to be controversial, to do, like, I think you really have to understand like where the line is, you know? And it's like, well, how can you say that? How can you give an example of a specific tweet? Like that's hard to say, but I think just having a greater discussion is like how far we're willing to push it, probably imperative. But I would almost suggest to not at the same time, like if we had that conversation, this would have never happened, maybe, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm not really sure.
I know a few other social media managers who have achieved online fame from something that they tweeted under a brand's name. Amy Brown, we had her as a guest on the podcast. She's from Wendy's. Nathan Allback, who was the Steakums Twitter guy. I think that folks like them and a lot of other folks in their shoes have kind of struggled to decouple their reputation from like that one thing that they did, and you have not. That is in spite of the fact that people tweeted, bring back the ass guy at PBR for like more than a year after you were fired.
That's stupid.
So
no, I mean, I don't come from social media. Like I used to have a Chinese restaurant and a donut store. Like I'm going to just keep going, you know? And like, I don't want to be that guy. You know what I mean? Like I quickly like took a job at Partyland just to like be a writer on Liquid Death because I was like, oh, that's so different. Like I won't have to do no tweets. Like I'm just gonna work with some really smart people and some really creative ideas and just kind of like figure it out from there. So I almost like I removed myself immediately. No one else got me to do their social media. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that was key, I think.
It seems like you got to the point where you are by making really deliberate choices about the kind of work that you were going to accept. And I just, even down to, you declined an interview on this show 4 years ago because you were interested in moving forward. And I just think that is so smart and so forward thinking. And I
appreciate it.
Don't think that, I think people get lost in the fame of the moment and aren't seeing 1 year down the line, 4 years down the line, when you're sort of riding that wave of viral success.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely a lot of opportunities, but I was quickly just sort of whittled it down to who I thought was real, and I worked on this marshmallow company, this kid, Mike Tourney. He started this called Stuff Puffs. He's a genius. He also has a company called Mikey's. Like, he's brilliant. And he reached out. And I was like, I'll give a chance with this guy because I could see his entrepreneurial side, So I worked with that just for a few months. And then Partyland,
Partyland is an agency that you had worked with at PBR, right?
Yeah. So then I was like, that was obvious to me. I was like, oh, this will be a great space to just chill out. And then in the background, I was having a conversation with Andy Sauer from Garage Beer. And it was just a beer brand by a brewery in Covington, Kentucky called Braxton. And he was like, I'm going to buy this brand and extract it. And like, I was like, that sounds cool, man. I was like, just let me know when we're ready, And so.
Why did he reach out to you? Was it the PBR tweet? Is that how you landed on his radar?
Yeah. I mean, basically, he said to me, whatever you were doing for them, I want you to keep doing for me,
That's awesome. I mean, that's fantastic. And in as much as you were like lost in the woods for a little while, would you say that at the end of the day, getting fired from PBR was like a positive step for your career?
It's the best thing that's ever happened to my career.
Elaborate on that.
I mean, I got a new house. I got a new truck. I got equity in Garage Beer. Life's good, babe. I don't know. What do you want to say?
That's it.
I've been still working. I'm working just as hard. I'm working harder than ever, but like, I'm starting to get a little older and a little more retrospective. Look, like, there's some luck in this shit. You know what I mean? Like, I can say I grinded my way through it. I did. There's some of that. Some of it was just good timing, though. And some of it was just intuition. So I think like I've been thinking about lately. It's like 80%. I feel like it's just grind it out, man. Just be a dog.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then 10% I think is a little bit of luck. You need that. And then 10% you're just like you're ready. You're like it's ready. It's time. So shit just kind of worked out like that. I can't just say I did this all on my own.
Right.
There's something bigger than that.
A little bit more background about Garage Beer. It's still a relatively new brand. It was only launched in 2018. It was part of a bigger beverage portfolio, like you said, Cincinnati-based. And in 2023, Andy Sauer, who's another marketer with experience working at Jim Beam and J.M. Smucker brands, he reached out to you and brought you on. What was it about what he was pitching and building that made it so attractive to you?
The name itself is crazy. Garage Beer. Like, that's crazy, I was like, that's a huge advantage. I'm already there, bro,
As one middle-aged dad to another, like, that speaks to the core of me.
And he's a great CEO, but he's a better marketer, in my opinion. He's a brilliant marketer, I'm not saying he's a bad CEO. It's just, I recognize, like, his calling is in marketing, And so when I heard the name, I was like, that's crazy, dude. I almost didn't believe it. I was like, are you serious? Like, it's going to be called Garage Beer? He's like, yeah. And so that was cool. And also we just clicked, man. I just got to know him as a person, like it was a pivotal time. Like my wife got pregnant, like when like I was at Partyland and like he's raising 4 kids. And like, I just started to like see this dude like as a man, and someone that I admired. He had some shit that I wanted, you know what I mean? He had like real stability and poise and like a sense of community and some shit that I certainly hadn't thought about. So as much as it was like the brand, like to be honest, like I just be fucking with Andy so much, like we're a family company still,
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
From the jump, you just hit the ground running with stuff that is just right in the Cory Smale wheelhouse. I don't want to say that you have a playbook, but there's a definite recognizable style. As a marketer working for a CEO who's another marketer, how did Andy empower you to make your mark on the brand?
We have a real trust. We've had it since day one. I think you have that ability to be like, I'm great at this one thing, I'm awful at all the other things, so I better find some other people that are great at those things, and that's his skill set, man. And so the trust was there from pretty much day one, and I was just allowed to kind of go crazy, which is what I do. We just kind of start chaos and start having fun, start doing things that we want to see ourselves. We come from the same, we're a couple of years apart in age. We're from the same, we're from the Midwest. We watch the same shit, on TV. There's a lot of shared interests like that. We both love 90s advertising. And so we were already we just started clicking. We'd have these calls, it's so crazy now. We can only talk for 5 minutes. Everything's so fucking busy now. But back in the day, we talked for 2 hours at a time. You know what I mean? We just were getting to know each other. And we got to know each other as people. And then we started working on the brand. And that's unique, you don't really find that in a corporate setting. That's only on some entrepreneurial shit,
No, and it's hard because you have to make time and space for that. It's not like you can just get to be friends with someone that you're working on without being intentional about that. Not to get too sappy about it, but if everything's go, deadlines, profit, it's going to be all right, what's the pitch? Here's the pitch. All right, go do it. All right, that's it. But if you're actually making time from the jump to work together, that's setting the stage for a long-term partnership that's going to keep going.
Yeah, it was cool. We just became friends, and there was some months, I think maybe the first 3 or 6 months, where I was just working on it, but so behind the scenes. I was telling him, I was like, here's how we could do a brand book. Here's some media plans, shit. Just some stuff I learned as a brand manager, nothing facing the public though. I hadn't taken over social. I hadn't done none of that yet. So that was cool too. I was like, oh, this dude sees me as more than this crazy social media dude. He's like, oh, you're a pretty smart business owner, previous, entrepreneur, and also a pretty smart brand marketer. And I was like, yeah, man, I can do all this shit. Some of it better than the other, but that's pretty much my skill, is running a brand and understanding how it connects in culture, specifically probably through digital, specifically through social media,
Yeah. No, there's certainly a method behind the madness there. Folks who are a fan of your previous work are going to see its echoes in Garage Beer's brand. Certainly there's that element of wild and free. It feels blue collar. It feels punk rock. It feels a little bit Adult Swim with the absurdity and the obscure cultural references.
All beef hot dogs filled with beer.
How do you explain the brand voice, quote unquote, that you've developed to someone who's not familiar with your work?
I always say we are our audience. We're just goofy, dude. Yesterday, Budweiser did a tweet and it was like this if you would want a Bud for Christmas. And somebody tagged us in the comments, I want to add Garage Beer. And I was like, okay, let me calculate this real quick. And so I hit the comments and I was like this if you want a Garage Beer. And then I put as a public tweet to everyone, I was like, hey guys, could you help me jump on this real quick? I just want a ratio Budweiser for Christmas. That's stupid, And but we're building, it's with Andy, dude, we have a trust with our audience because we're willing to do shit that's you're what are you talking about, bro? You're going to mail vinyl records to people. You're going to mail 2,000 stickers. You have this gnarly paper cut in your thumb because you're licking envelopes. The fuck are you talking about? It doesn't make any sense, but I'm willing to go there because I come from hardcore. I come from punk rock. I come from DIY where it's if I don't do it, no one is, And also that world is rooted in tangibility of merch and 7 inches and records and going to the show and sweat and you feel this stuff, And that's what's missing from so many brands now. It's dude, I can only double tap this thing so hard, I want to know a brand. I want to touch a brand. I want to taste a brand. I want to get really into it with them. And I want to see how weird they can be, that's the whole thing. It's just we're into you. We are you. Whatever, let's go. Let's do shit that you would want to do because that's what we want to do. And so we never really been positioning ourselves as a brand, And when we have to say brand, I think in the Ad Age thing, it's quoted. It's we want to be the dumbest brand on the internet. If we're going to have to be a brand, then we'll be the dumbest one, Because I don't really think we're just kind of a collective of hooligans or something, you know?
I would argue that in 2025, there are not enough chief creative officers who are out there licking envelopes for shit that they're sending to their customers. And certainly
I
there
do
are
everything.
not.
If I'm gonna ask of someone, I do everything I'm gonna ask of someone else. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Lead from the front. Get in the trenches, kind of a guy. Yeah,
and I love this shit. I fucking love this shit still, you know?
And for that matter, I don't know about you. It's probably been longer than I'd like to admit since I've been in a mosh pit, but I would imagine that you've spent some time in a mosh pit.
Bro, I came out of mosh retirement about 6 months ago at the Hey Preach show. I was ready. I had to, bro.
Yeah,
But
how did that feel the next day?
It's okay, because that's a safe spot for like old heads, you know? It's like, it wasn't like young kids doing the windmills and shit, you know? It was cool. I mean, it felt all right.
I was at a Coheed and Cambria show about a year back, and I could not believe the number of dudes with like gnarly beards down to their sternums who were just sitting there and kind of looking around, waiting for somebody to start the mosh, but then just kind of nodding quietly. And I sat there and I'm like, yeah, I don't mind standing here quietly.
Oh man, dude, I'm on a big Coheed kick lately.
Oh, did you see their new video? Santa Claus in like an anime style cartoon teaming up with Krampus.
Coheed is a brand, and they're one that I fuck with heavy. Like, Claudio's amp broke during the show, and he's just kicking it, and they were like done playing. I was like, this is fucking wild.
Godfather's Lollipop, bro.
Genius.
I'm right. I am.
Okay,
I can go so deep on Coheed.
Coheed is not the biggest band in the world,
and they don't have mass appeal. Like most people listen to it and go, "This is weird."
Dude, I have. Okay, we gotta stop talking about Coheed.
Corey, are we gonna start? Are we gonna start a Coheed fan podcast together?
I have a big. I think if there's not already one. Like, I mean, I'm down, bro. I have a huge spot in my heart for Coheed and Cambria.
Oh, where was I going with this? Right. Coheed's awesome. Being real.
Yes,
and being able to dive into that kind of stuff for the Garage Beer brand that's exactly the kind of like deep dive nerd shit that makes the brand work. But I want to say and take this the right way, because I feel comfortable in saying that hiring you to work on marketing was the second best decision that Andy made. Because not long after, he brought on Jason and Travis Kelce as co-owners. And for folks who don't know,
they're cool.
Jason is a retired NFL lineman who played his whole career with the Eagles. Travis is the superstar tight end for the Chiefs, Super Bowl winner, and happens to be engaged to Taylor Swift. Together, they have a huge following. They've got a popular podcast. And when they bought into Garage Beer, the publicity exploded. How did that deal come about?
Andy he has a vision, and he sees people, and he knows the moves. And like, dude, 6 or 7 years before Garage Beer even launched, he started this company called Helio. It was pre-workout gummies, which is now like what I think Grooms is like making a bunch of money doing. Like, he had thought of that. He thought of that like many years ago, because Travis liked to eat gummy bears on the sidelines, and Andy was like, "Oh, why don't you do some you could do some pre-workout ones." And this is, Travis was in the NFL, but like he wasn't like, there was no New Heights, no Taylor Swift, none of that. You know what I mean? He didn't even want a Super Bowl, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's from Ohio, and Andy was just like, Andy knew a guy, I think, who knew Travis, and was like, "Hey, will you be the face of this thing?" And he was like, "Sure." And they got tight, and it sold, it did well. And then Andy, he was like, "Let me just, like, let's stay in touch, And so fast forward 5, 6, 7 years or something, like, it's now time. We're like, okay, we wanted to bring on Jason. We're like, let's get Jason, But then Jason was like, "Oh, I only want to do this with Travis. Like, this is the first business that we will do together. Like, we're all in." And that was just like, oh shit. So then we had to figure out how to do it. But it's all comes from just working good relationships, being loyal, being trustworthy. Like, man, I guess it's a testament to those things.
When Andy told you that he wanted to pursue this, like, what were you feeling inside?
He had said Travis, like, he was like, I did this thing with Travis Kelce, and I kept that in the back of my mind. And then all of a sudden, when he's just like, "Oh, so I'm talking to Jason," I was like, "Oh, this might be real," I knew it would with Jason, particularly because he can just do so much more. He's retired, like he can kind of do whatever he wants to do now. I knew that it was going to be good. We were the fastest growing beer brand in America before and after the Kelces. But like, it was a little fire. And then the Kelce like 18-wheeler came back, the tanker truck, and just dumped gas, you know, and then it exploded. So it's like we had the momentum was going, you know, but then that just exploded things, bro, in a way that I don't think any of us thought was possible.
So how did it change your plans then? I mean, obviously you had an idea for the direction that you thought that you were going to take the brand, and then that happened. Yeah. Did they come in with their own ideas for building the brand, or has this just been another fun tool in the toolbox for you?
I knew that it was very important. Andy and we agreed very early on that we don't want to just become an influencer brand. You see a lot of these products that are just like, that's the marketing. Well, we got the guy. That's it. I'm like, that's not it. Like, we are a brand. We're Garage Beer. We already made hot dogs that exploded with beer inside of them. Like, we were already doing crazy shit. I was like, we're Garage Beer. Like, so we agreed, like, it's always got to be 50-50. You know, we always got to maintain who we are as Garage Beer. And I think that Jason, he saw that stuff. He's like, these guys are crazy, you know, like, and so that kind of informed the stuff he wanted to do. The first thing we did with him was a video that went viral, where it's just him and Bo Allen washing his cyber truck, like in little shorts, drinking beers, spraying each other with hoses, like low lift, like not even a crazy idea, but he just knew that would crack, you know, and sure enough, it did. We released that on, I think, the first NFL Monday of 2 seasons ago. So when Jason made his ESPN debut, we launched it that day. And so that sort of informed, like, okay, we're immediately going to get wild with this dude, you know? I think what Jason really likes about the brand is that, like, we don't lean too hard on him, you know? Like, we do our Jason stuff and it's big, you know? Like, we're doing a Super Bowl commercial right now, you know? But we also do our Garage Beer stuff. And like, it's got to be equal. It always has to be. Jason sometimes we'll be like, oh, we're working on this thing. You know, like we did this bed that we filled a water bed full of beer. It's called the beer bed.
It's like a water bed, but better because it's not water. It's beer.
It had a beer tap on the head.
like a water bed, but with a keg beer tap in the headboard.
Yes, in the headboard. And then and so Jason was like, oh, I want to get on. And we're like, no. Because this guy, we got to do our Garage Beer stuff.
How do you tell Jason Kelce no?
Because he got his own good ideas, dude. He's fine. Don't worry about him.
Tell me more about the beer waterbed, because that absolutely slayed me. Like the entire setup that you guys did. Where did the idea? Was that just it? It's like, here's a dumb thing we could do, and then you went out and did it.
There's water beds, dude. There's water beds. So why couldn't there be a beer bed? I can't believe no one thought of this, dude. People are dumb. And so when I think of it, Jordan Phoenix is my best friend. He's also our director, and he can get in my head and make things happen. I'll be like, dude, I want to do this. I'll write a script for it. And he'll be like, all right, hang on. And then like he'll come back to me a week later and be like, all right, so we can get a kegerator. We can drill into the headboard. I found a waterbed. Like, he loves like piecing it all together. And so then we have it, and then we make, and then he can also direct the spots, which is fucking crazy. So then we have that, and then we just go.
Who got the waterbed, and did they actually fill it with beer?
This guy in like northern, like the suburb of Chicago, he got it. We couldn't fill it with beer. We did some research. It would get gnarly. That's all I can say in a short amount of time. There's like yeast and like active components in beer that like you don't want to like nestle your face into at night. But it is a real waterbed, and there is a kegerator attached to the headboard, and you can have lime or light depending on whatever you need. You wake up, you're just a little thirsty. You just take your head back.
I mean,
back to bed.
And then presumably carry that with you into the shower for a shower beer, and you're living the dream.
Sure,
that's the way to go,
dude. I'm working on the new one. The next, I'll break it here, dude. It's called the Beer Hand.
The Beer Hand.
And are you familiar with the Power Glove?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Imagine that, but with like 2025 updated technology, and instead of being good at video games, it's all designed to make you better at drinking beer.
Come on. What are you partnered up with Apple for this shit? What?
No, I'm partnered up with eBay. I'm partnered up with buying old Power Gloves on eBay, and Jordan like retrofitting them with like USB-C and like dumb technology, and then we'll make like 10 of them, and that'll be enough to be like, hey, you could get one still, I guess, you know.
Okay, I have ideas. First of all, it needs a ping pong ball launcher, so that when you're playing beer pong, you can just and arc it in.
That's sick. One thing I'm working on, it's called the Decision Dome, and it's literally just like the technology that's in an 8-ball, you know, but like a bubble. And then the die, it only says, hell yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
If I'm not laughing, we're not going to fucking do it. You know what I mean? Like, if it's not stupid enough to where I'm like, Jesus, dude, this is so dumb, then like, we're probably not going to do it. But once it hits that level, I'll stop at nothing.
In that vein, I have to say that the crown jewel of this is so dumb brilliance that you have achieved are the Brewmite martial arts movies that you guys have published on YouTube.
The Brewmite. The world's fiercest fighters come from every corner of the earth.
Thank you. Brewmite was tight. Jason was like, it's the Kumite, but it's called Brewmite.
Sick.
And we'll drop a link to it. Describe it to someone who hasn't seen it. What have you
an
done?
underground fighting tournament where the winner gets the golden can of garage beer. Spoiler alert, Jason dies and Chuck Lidell wins.
How did you get
I don't know. I don't really know how we got Chuck Lidell. This dude showed up in Miami the day of the shoot on a red eye. He was so chill. One of the coolest, most chilled out dudes. We kicked it. And he's like, all right, see ya. And then just left. I was like, dude, I don't even know how you got. No one, still don't know. I guess because of Jason or something, but like, I'm still not really sure how that all worked out. And we got Travis in that one, so that was cool.
Man, this is like Mortal Kombat meets Temu.
Then, yeah, our last one we did, I'm the most proud of. It's called Thermal Buzz. It's like a Predator remake.
In here.
And we were tripping. Was like, oh shit, they're putting a real Predator movie out this fall. We're fucked. But then Disney was like, oh no, like we don't have a plan to hype this thing online. And now people like Leonardo DiCaprio had just been on New Heights, so it was like, wait a second, we could you guys could help us promote this thing. And so yeah, we like there's commercials where it's like the Thermal Buzz, the R spot, and then it cuts to their movie. And it's like
that's something we can all agree on.
Predator Badlands, and it's like brought to you by like what the like. We went to Hollywood. We got to go to the red carpet party, dude. It was so fun. Like, just crazy. Like, that's like some just like DIY in the mainstream. Just like,
do you ever just like pinch yourself and be like, oh my God, this is my life. This is my career. I get to do this stuff.
Quickly, because we have to keep going.
So you don't allow yourself to relish in it too much. You just got to move on to the next thing. You keep moving.
Yeah. I mean, I texted the team today because I was about to be done. I'll read it to you what I say. I said, love you guys. Look what we've been able to do in 7 months. Imagine a whole ass year of this shit. Jesus fucking Christ. I feel for the competition. We are doing something very special here. Even though it feels like our everyday work, it's magic. I swear to God. Thank you.
The results speak for themselves. Back. I gotta drop some numbers here. I gotta drop some numbers here because they're wild. Marketing Dive reported that in Q3, sales volumes were up 460% over the past year. Have there been other milestones, other numbers that you get to throw around to send them to the team and just be like, look at this? Hell yes.
I mean, we had 100,000 Instagram followers last December. And then this year, December 9th, we had 300,000. So I think that's pretty good. Like 3, and then we just hired this really smart dude, James. He's British, and he's gonna be like our head of growth, which is like a whole thing where like he's gonna like hack all the social and digital for us. And he's like, I'll get it to 3 million real quick. He's like, you guys have done it the hard way. And I'm like, this is all I know, buddy. So whatever.
You have a bigger social following than any of the macro beers, than Bud Light, than Miller Lite, than
except
Coors.
for Budweiser, because Budweiser's so fucking international.
Okay, so they're still you're going to take them down. Is that your New Year's resolution for 26?
Yeah, it's going to take a while. They have like 700, but we'll get them. I think we'll get them in the next year for sure. And Bud Light, we're very close behind Bud Light. But if you look at the engagement, like our shit's going crazy, bro. Like it's just their legacy. They've been around,
Mm-hmm.
But it's a matter of time until we start catching them because we got Miller Lite, we got Michelob Ultra, we got Coors Light, we got them all, dude.
Speaking of milestones and like pat yourself on the back moments, Ad Age's Marketer of the Year. I understand that that's maybe a little bit extra sweet for you. Why is that?
Oh, well, in 2010, my first attempt at being an idiot on the internet, I got fired. Go figure. from an advertising agency. And they were like, I was like, well, fuck it. I'll do my own thing. I was like 23. And so I remember I got some Captain Crunch at the store that day. And Captain Crunch, he didn't have no Twitter or no social media or nothing, dude. So I started
this was
viral
2010.
campaign
Like brands hadn't colonized the space yet.
Dude. And we were like, me and my friend Mike Buccelli, he's like, we're still like best friends to this day. We just launched this thing we call Where's the Captain? And like we had this whole viral campaign about like trying to find where is he at? Why
completely without the permission of the brand. You were like auditioning.
None.
Like if we can do this big enough, they'll notice.
And so we got it on Ad Age, and Bob Garfield, who's like a legend at Ad Age, dude, he roasted us. He was just like, where's the captain? Does no favors for social media proponents. Like this dude was thinking that like social media is not gonna last and shit. But at the time we were like, fuck, like he just crushed us, you know what I mean? It led us, we got to go to we went to Pepsi because they own Quaker, who owns Captain Crunch. And we went up to Chicago at Pepsi and we're like trying to pitch the business. They were like, so what's your guys, like, are you guys an agency? We're like, no, we're just like doing this, dude, you know? And they were like, well, you can have some free cereal. And we're like, oh, fuck off. And then a new social media company got it at the time called Vayner Media.
Oh, gee, who's that now? Who's that?
Yeah, well, it wasn't Gary Vee. There was no Gary Vee yet. It was just called Vayner Media. And then I was like, oh my God. And so, dude, I admittedly for a while, I was like, man, I was like at that level with that guy and like, boom, you know, and like, I just kind of fell off with the advertising shit. I was like, fuck this. I'll go open a donut store. You know what I mean? I'll open a Chinese restaurant. And now 15 years later, dude, Ad Age, who said I'm an idiot for trying to do social media, now says I'm the best in the world at it. What the fuck?
You got to print those off, frame them, and hang them next to each other. Because I think if nothing else, that's a reminder that this business moves fast and it changes fast. And if you just stay true to yourself and true to your vision,
that's right,
and stay original, there's room to move. And God, you just
work like a dog. But my dad works like a dog.
What's your dad do?
My work ethic. He drove a forklift for a long time.
He's a tough son of a gun. That's a hard job, man.
Yeah. He's a real one. And he just worked hard. And like, I just saw him work hard. And like, sometimes it'd be frustrating to see him work that hard, you know? But I was like, damn, like I saw him get some places with us, you know? And so I was like, shit. Some of it, like I said, some of it's 80% just being like, I'm a dog. I'm gonna put my head down and do the work, you know?
Yeah.
And in 15 years, you won't be able to deny it, you know? And so here we are.
My dad had a job that he hated for 40 years, busted his hump every day, and wanted nothing more for me and my sisters than to go out and have jobs that we love. And I still think, I don't know, how's your dad feel about what you're doing now?
Oh, he can't believe it, dude. I called him the other night. I was staying at a 5-star hotel. There was a Christmas tree in the room. I called him at like midnight, and I was like kind of emotional. I was like, damn, dude, because my grandma grew up, she was a sharecropper. So my grandma grew up on dirt floors, and I'm staying at the 5-star hotel, and I call my dad, and I'm like, yo, like, dude, you bridged the gap, bro. Like, that couldn't have been easy, you know what I mean? Like, from here to there in one generation, that's sick, dude.
That's awesome,
so,
dude.
Yeah.
He
can't believe what I'm doing. It's cool.
I bet.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a Super Bowl commercial. Looking forward to that. What else is next for the brand as you go charging into 26 here?
Shit. We're going to have a festival called Garage Fest next year. I've been wanting to have this thing called Dad Fest for like years, which is just like stuff for dads to do during the day, like wrestling and beer and nachos and stuff. So, we're going to have that.
Where's that going to be?
Garage Fest in Ohio. Duh.
I don't normally go to Ohio, but I might make an exception for that. That sounds dope.
Pull up, dude. Ohio kicks ass. Only second to Missouri, where I'm from, the Show Me State. So like we have a crazy product launch coming out in the spring. We have a crazy festival coming out in the fall. We have a crazy collaboration with a very cool brand that does crazy things that aren't in the alcohol space in the fall. Like we added some really awesome people to our team this year. I gotta give a shout out to this dude, Jay. He heads up all our shopper and all of our partnerships. And like, I don't know how to do that shit, dude. Like, you know, and like they were counting on me to like do that and all this other stuff. I was like, oh, yeah. So when
you got envelopes to lick, dude.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I got stickers to mail, bro. I ain't got time to set up a shopper retail marketing program. Though that is how you sell beer, which is ironic. No, Jay's a killer. This kid Alex just joined us. My friend Lauren, who we've been working with for a long time as a freelance producer. I was like, just come on, like we're doing enough shit. Let's go. And then obviously Lizard, who is my like protege, dude. This kid's 25. She's like, it's fucked up. Like I'll be working for Lizard like pretty soon, dude. I'm telling you. And so our team's still super small. We got Andy, and then KG is a CMO and sort of like he's like the godfather. He kind of like he looks at it, he's like, don't do this, and but even some shit, he's like, I don't know, you're fucking crazy, Cory, but I guess it works. And so I'm like, thank you.
There's an elephant in the room, and we haven't talked about it yet. One of your brand's owners is getting married to the biggest marketing juggernaut in the whole world. So I have to ask, how many hours of sleep do you lose a night trying to figure out how to land the T-Swift garage beer crossover?
Dog, I don't know. I ain't worried about it. I mean, by proxy, we got a lot of Swifties. Look, we sell a lot of garage beer lime. For a beer brand, 40% of our audience is female, which is insane.
That's wild. Yeah.
So I'm just like cool with that. I don't like to play it too hard, bro. It's obvious. And you see brands, it's like, you see the brands that aren't even affiliated, they like use her to like, I'm like, that's gross, dog. And so like, I'd be feeling like
it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen eventually.
Maybe,
it's unavoidable. But landing it, making it natural, that's gonna be the trick, man.
It'll work. I mean, we'll figure something out. But it's just in wrestling they call it cheap heat. So I'm not gonna break kayfabe in order to get some cheap heat.
Oh, dude, this has been fun. Listen,
this is so fun. It took me so long to be on this podcast. My God.
Oh, I'm glad it didn't suck.
Here I am.
I have to say one last schmaltzy thing, and then I'm going to let you get on about your day, because I got to point out, man, if there is anything resembling a recurring theme in this show, it is this. In the corporate world and marketing in particular, I think the greatest creativity could be choked out by the fear of failure. Your old buddy Andy Pearson from Liquid Death has been raging about this on LinkedIn lately, where he just says that strategy is antithetical to creativity. Strategy is killing creativity, is what he keeps saying. And if you over strategize, you underperform in terms of creative. I love centering the stories of marketers like you who take big swings, but more importantly, I think what you've shown us here is that there is a way to come back stronger when you take a big swing and you miss. And your fearlessness and the intentionality with which you have redefined yourself over the last 4 years are lessons that we can only help to emulate. So Cory Smale, Chief Creative Officer at Garage Beer, thank you so much for joining us on Lead Balloon, man.
Thanks, Dusty. I'll do it anytime. I appreciate you, brother.
You're a goddamn Kelce. You've been training your whole life for this. You've been drinking since you were legally allowed to. You've been doing karate for maybe 2 weeks.
Thank you for tuning in. Here on Lead Balloon, we like to take a look at the PR and marketing stories that are too weird or nerdy or offbeat for other comms podcasts. So we hope to see you back here in this feed again sometime soon. Follow us on your favorite podcast app or check out one of the other 64 episodes in the old archive. Lead Balloon is produced by PodCamp Media, where we make podcasts for businesses. Our podcast studios are located in the heart of beautiful downtown Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We work with brands all over North America to help them launch and build podcasts that work. Check out our website, podcampmedia.com. Music for this episode by Divisioner, sound engineering by Matt Covarrubias. And until the next time, folks, thanks for listening. I'm Dusty Weiss.